Good morning, dear students. From your first flight textbook, we are doing the sermon at Benaras written by Betty Renshaw. Betty Renshaw was an American writer. She was born on October 2, 1921, in the Renshaw family. She died on April 30, 1999, at the age of 77. The chapter covers the journey of Gautam Buddha from princehood to his saintly life. Gautam Buddha, 563 BC to 483 BC, began life as a prince named Siddhartha Gautam in northern India. At 12, he was sent away for schooling in the Hindu sacred scriptures, and 4 years later, he returned home to marry a princess. We are learning of Gautam Buddha's life, and Gautam Buddha was born as a prince named Siddharth Gautam. When he was 12 years of old, he was sent for schooling, and schooling at that period of time was reading scriptures, that is, holy Vedas. And after he turned 16, that is 4 years later, when he returned home after his schooling, he got married to a princess. They had a son and lived for 10 years as befitted royalty. So they had a son, and for 10 years they had lived as befitted. Befitted means appropriate, royalty means people of royal blood, that is, with all royal luxuries. At about the age of 25, the prince, heretofore shielded from the sufferings of the world, while out hunting, chanced upon a sick man, then an aged man, then a funeral procession, and finally a monk begging for alms. So the prince Siddharth Gautam, who till now had lived a life of royalty and was shielded and was protected till now from the sufferings of the world, from the grievances of the world, he was going for a hunting, and when he was going for a hunting, he came upon a sick man, that is an ailing man. He saw a man in his old age, that is an aged man. Then he saw the funeral procession of a person, and finally he saw a monk. He was begging for alms. These sights so moved him that he at once went out into the world to seek enlightenment concerning the sorrows he had witnessed. Now he was very much touched seeing the sufferings of the world. Till now he had been protected, he had been shielded. Now he saw what? He had been witness to the sorrows of an ailing person, the sorrows of a loss of a family member, the sorrow of an old age. So he wanted to obtain enlightenment. Enlightenment, that is a high spiritual knowledge. He wandered for 7 years and finally sat down under a peepal tree. So he wandered looking for enlightenment for 7 years, and then he sat under a peepal tree where he would to stay until enlightenment came. And there he made a promise. He was serious about things that he is going to seek enlightenment, and he is going to be seated under that peepal tree. Enlightened after 7 days, he renamed the tree the Bodhi tree, tree of wisdom, and began to teach and to share his new understandings. And after 7 days, he did get enlightenment, and he named the tree, the peepal tree, as Bodhi tree. Bodhi, that means wisdom. And he started teaching the people of what? Teaching the people of the sorrows that he had witnessed, teaching the people of the sufferings there is in the world. So he started sharing his new understanding about the world, the worldly affairs, the earthly life, the emotions attached with the earthly being. So he started teaching and giving wisdom to the people, the enlightenment that he had received. At that point, he became known as the Buddha, the awakened or the enlightened. enlightened. So when Buddha received this enlightenment, he was known to the world. Siddhartha Gautam was known to the world as Buddha, and Buddha literal meaning is awakened, enlightened. The Buddha preached his first sermon at the city of Benaras, most holy of the dipping places on the river Ganges. So Buddha started his preaching. Preaching means to deliver a sermon or religious address to a group of people. And sermon means a talk on a religious or moral subject. So he started giving sermons. In the first city he gave sermon was a Benaras, and where close to the holy river, that is Ganges. That sermon has been preserved and is given here. So this we are going to read now. It reflects the Buddha's wisdom about one unscrutable kind of suffering. Inscrutable, that is something which cannot be understood. So this sermon tells us about Buddha's wisdom, that he had received the enlightenment that he has received. And what is this sermon, this preaching all about? This is about the sufferings that the humankind is having, and this suffering is inscrutable. It cannot be expressed. It is impossible to understand or interpret. Some is suffering an emotional loss, some is having a physical disability, one is having a financial loss. So one or the other suffering is there in humankind. So what is the reason behind the same? Why human is suffering? So this is a reflection of Buddha's wisdom here. Kisa Gautami had an only son and he died. So the woman name is Kisa Gautami. He had an only son, he passed away. In her grief, she carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine. And the people said, "She has lost her senses. The boy is dead." So she's going around in the neighborhood asking people to help and to provide her with some medicine that can bring back a boy to life. And the people started talking. They started saying that the woman has all gone mad because the only son is passed away, he has died. At length, Kisa Gautami met a man who replied to her request. "I cannot give thee medicine for thy child, but I know a physician who can." So when Kisa was looking for somebody who can provide medicine, she got to meet a man. And the man said, "I cannot give thee medicine for that child, but I know a physician who can." So this man said that, "I cannot give you medicine that can bring your child back to life, but then definitely I know a physician." And the girl said, "Pray, tell me, sir, who is it?" And the man replied, "Go to Sakyamuni, the Buddha." So the woman requested, "Tell me who the person is who can cure my son." And he said that, "Go to Buddha, the Sakyamuni." Sakyamuni means hermit, sage. It is a Sanskrit word. Kisa Gautami repaired to Buddha and cried, "Lord and Master, give me the medicine that will cure my boy." So Kisa Gautami goes to Buddha and asks and requests that, "Lord and Master, give me some medicine that can bring my boy to life." The Buddha answered, "I want a handful of mustard seed." And when the girl in her joy promised to procure it, the Buddha added, "The mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one has lost a child, husband, parent, or friend." So Buddha asked the woman that she should get a handful of mustard seed. The woman was very happy that it would be very easy to obtain mustard seed. But then Buddha added that you have to collect the mustard seed from a family where death has not stalked into the family. That means the family has not been a witness to a death of any of its family member, that is a child, husband, parent, or friend. So Buddha asked that she should get mustard seed from such a family. Poor Kisa Gautami now went from house to house, and the people pitied her and said, "Here is mustard seed, take it." So poor Kisa Gautami, to bring her son back to life, is moving from one house to another, looking for people, asking them to give her mustard seed, and people felt sorry for her. But when she asked, did a son or daughter or father or mother die in your family? They answered her, alas, the living are few, but the dead are many. Now, what did Gautam Buddha said? Gautam Buddha said, you are going to get a handful of mustard seed, but from a family that has not seen a death of any beloved. So she had to she collected the mustard seed, but then she questioned them that she is hopeful that the family has not been a witness to death of any of the family member. Then the members used to say what that they are grief stricken about what, that the living are few, that there are few people living alive, but the dead are many, but there are many family members who have passed away. Do not remind us of our deepest grief. People used to say her that please do not remind us of the loss of the dear ones. And there was no house, but some beloved one had died in it. So she couldn't get any house that has not seen a loss of any family member in the house. Kisa Gautami became weary and hopeless and sat down at the wayside watching the lights of the city as they flickered up and were extinguished again. So Kisa got very weary. She got tired moving from one house to another house looking for mustard seed and asking them if the house there is no one who has passed away or died. And then she was all hopeless that now the son will not come back to life because there was grief in every house. And she sat sitting down by the wayside. She looks at the lights of the city, that the lights were flickering, that means moving unsteadily, and were extinguished again. Extinguished, that is, ceased to burn, that is, stopped burning. At last, the darkness of the night reigned everywhere, and then there was night, and the darkness had enveloped the city. And she considered the fate of men, that their lives flicker up and are extinguished again. And then she started wondering about the life, the destiny of a man. And she thought to herself, how selfish am I in my grief? And she started wondering that how, in the grief of the loss of the son, she had become selfish. Death is common to all. Death comes to rich, to poor, to every human being. That is, man is mortal and they are subject to death. Yet, in this valley of desolation means an area which is filled with deep sorrow, that is the earth leads him to immortality who has surrendered to all selfishness. So, human beings are mortal beings, they are subject to death. But a human can become immortal when he does the deeds of goodness in life, when he surrenders all selfishness, all greed, then definitely human beings will become immortal and they can achieve peace and solace. The Buddha said, the life of mortals in this world is troubled and grief and combined with pain. So, Buddha said, what his wisdom, his teaching says that the mortal beings, that is, human beings, their life is troubled. There are trials, there are tribulations in life. It is brief, that span of life is short, and combined with pain, that is, the sufferings are there. For there is not any means by which those that have been born can avoid dying. So, the one who has taken birth will definitely die. After reaching old age, there is death of such a nature are living beings. So, the fate of living being, the fate of mortal being is death will come to all. And at old age, after old age, there is death, and there are certain times untimely death also. So, nobody can avoid death. As ripe fruits are early in danger of falling, the minute fruit turns ripe, it falls down. So mortals, when born, are always in danger of death. So mortal being, it is subject to death, and it will surely die. As all earthen vessels made by the potter end in being broken, so is the life of mortals. So, Life of mortal is subject to death. It will come to a subject to a destruction like the potter's earthen vessel. Both young and adult, both those who are fools and those who are wise, all fall into the prey of death. So, whether it is a young or an adult or an old age, whether it is an idiot or a wise man, everyone will fall and be subject to death. Of those who overcome by death depart from life, a father cannot save his son, nor kinsmen their relatives. Mark, while relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply, one by one mortals are carried off like an ox that is led to the slaughter. So the mortal beings who overcome by death, that is, they come out of the fear of death, depart from life, they very peacefully depart from this earthly life to a eternal life. A father cannot save his son, however, father loves his son, is emotionally attached to son. Nor can spend their relatives, neither the blood relations can save their relatives. Mark, while relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply, while the relations, the blood relations, family and friends look on to the death of people and cry and lament and mourn their death, one by one mortals are carried off. One by one, everyone who has taken birth would die. Like an ox that is led to the slaughter, so like an ox is led to the slaughterhouse, similarly, the man would meet its death. So the world is afflicted with death and decay, therefore, the wise do not grieve, knowing the terms of the world. So, this world is affected by death and decay, that is affected by the sufferings of the dear ones, the death of the dear ones, disease, pain, decay. And the one who is wise enough to understand this earthly life, they will not grieve, they will not feel sorry, because they know it is understood if one comes out of the fear of death and accepts death as the ultimate reality, then there is no grief at all. And knowing the terms of the world, so the terms of the world is one who has taken birth will die. Not from weeping nor from grieving will anyone obtain peace of mind. On the contrary, his pain will be the greater and his body will suffer. So, weeping and grieving and mourning at the death of the person, at the death of a beloved, at the death of the near and dear ones, at the death of a blood relation, then nothing will happen. One will not achieve peace of mind. On the contrary, what will happen? The person's body will suffer. He will make himself sick and pale, yet the dead are not saved by his lamentation. So the person will cry, will lament and moan at the death of the dear one, will feel sick and will lose his health also, will suffer, the body will suffer, but then his grieving and crying will not bring the dead to life. He who seeks peace should draw out the arrow of lamentation and complaint and grief. So, one who wants to seek peace, one who wants to obtain peace, should come out of this grief, should come out of the pain and complaint from the life and of he who has drawn out the arrow and has become composed will obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed. So, Gautam Buddha says that a person who accepts the life and death, the birth and death of the person as a reality, as the ultimate truth, would obtain peace of mind. And one who has overcome all sorts of sorrow, of grief, then that person would become free from sorrow and be blessed. That person will obtain peace of mind and calmness. Students, I hope the line by line explanation of the chapter is understood. Thank you.